The moment they stop respecting you, everything changes. It doesn't matter how much you've invested, how much you've sacrificed, or how much you've tried to prove your worth. Once respect is gone, love begins to rot. And you've probably felt it before. That subtle shift in the way they look at you, the way they speak to you, the way they dismiss your thoughts like they carry no weight. It's not always loud. It's not always obvious. Sometimes it creeps in quietly, hidden behind jokes, sarcastic remarks, or indifference. But deep down, you can feel it. The ground beneath your relationship cracking. Most men ignore it at first. They tell themselves it's just stress, just a bad mood, just a passing phase. But here's the truth no one tells you. Once someone stops respecting you, the relationship clock starts ticking. You can buy time with compromise. You can distract yourself with intimacy. You can convince yourself that things will get better. But slowly, piece by piece, you're being stripped of your dignity. And without dignity, you're not a partner anymore. You're an option, a convenience, a placeholder until something else excites them. Respect is the foundation of love, not passion. Respect is the invisible contract that says, I see your value. I acknowledge your presence. I care about your voice. Without it, passion becomes hollow, intimacy becomes performance, and connection becomes manipulation. And here's the raw truth that stings. Once respect is broken, the person who lost it rarely fights to bring it back. They've already made a decision about who you are in their eyes, and if you allow it, they'll keep you there, beneath them, controlled, silenced. But why does it hurt so much? Because deep down, men crave respect even more than affection. A man can survive without constant praise, but take away his respect and you crush his spirit. When the woman you love dismisses you, mocks you, or ignores your boundaries, it's not just her opinion, it's an attack on your identity. And if you tolerate it, you'll unconsciously train her to keep devaluing you. That's why the moment you feel respect slipping, you must act. Not with anger, not with desperate begging, but with boundaries. Because a relationship without respect is not a relationship. It's a slow death. Respect doesn't disappear overnight. It erodes in moments, small, almost invisible cuts that bleed you slowly. The first time she interrupts you mid-sentence and you let it slide. The first time she dismisses your opinion with a laugh and you tell yourself, it's not worth fighting over. The first time she makes a decision that affects both of you, but doesn't even bother asking your input. These are the warning shots, the silent signals that she's beginning to test your worth. And if you keep ignoring them, the erosion becomes permanent. Here's the uncomfortable truth. People only treat you the way you allow them to. If you reward disrespect with silence, you've just given permission for more of it. If you try to prove yourself every time she questions your value, you've already accepted her doubt as truth. Respect isn't maintained by effort alone. It's maintained by presence, by boundaries, by the quiet certainty that says, I will not let anyone make me smaller than I am. But too many men confuse patience with weakness. They confuse tolerance with love. They confuse sacrifice with loyalty. And in doing so, they build a cage around themselves, hoping that their silence will keep the peace. But silence doesn't create peace. It creates imbalance. And imbalance is the birthplace of contempt. Once contempt enters a relationship, it's only a matter of time before desire fades, before intimacy feels forced, before love turns into obligation. Think about it. When was the last time you felt truly seen? When was the last time she listened to your words without rolling her eyes or checking her phone? When was the last time your boundaries weren't treated like inconveniences? These questions aren't meant to break you, but to wake you up. Because a man who accepts disrespect is no longer leading his own life. He's living under someone else's approval. The real danger isn't her losing respect for you. The real danger is you losing respect for yourself while trying to keep her. That's when men spiral, That's when they sacrifice their values, abandon their goals, and reshape themselves just to avoid being left behind. But what you don't see is that by doing this, you're not saving the relationship. You're only delaying the inevitable. Respect isn't demanded, and it isn't begged for. It's earned through strength and protected through boundaries. And once you compromise that, you've already started losing. There's a silent moment every man remembers. The first time he felt invisible in his own relationship. Maybe it was when you shared something important and she brushed it off like it didn't matter. Maybe it was when you tried to express your needs and she twisted it into weakness. Or maybe it was when you realized she speaks to strangers with more kindness than she does to you. That moment lingers. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And that whisper stays in your chest, eating away at your confidence, making you question if you're good enough. But let me tell you something you were never supposed to know. When someone stops respecting you, they don't see you as a partner anymore. They see you as manageable. Manageable men are predictable. They don't push back, they don't demand better, they don't risk being disliked. They just adapt. And when you adapt too much, you stop being attractive. Because attraction isn't built on comfort, it's built on polarity. It's built on the tension between strength and vulnerability. And the moment you collapse into trying to please at all costs, you've already lost the magnetic pull that made her drawn to you in the first place. Think carefully. She didn't fall for you because you were agreeable. She didn't fall for you because you bent over backwards to earn her approval. She fell for the version of you that carried a spine, that held boundaries, that knew his worth. But when that man disappears, she feels it. She might not say it directly, but she'll test you harder. She'll push your limits. She'll provoke reactions. She'll create situations to see if the man she once respected is still there. And if you keep failing those tests, she doesn't just lose respect, she loses desire. That's why some men wake up one day shocked that she's cold, distant, or already looking elsewhere. They think it happened suddenly. But it didn't. It was building for months, sometimes years. Every time you avoided conflict to keep the peace, every time you allowed her to chip away at your dignity, you were teaching her something. That you're safe to disrespect, that you're safe to ignore, that you're safe to forget. Respect doesn't just keep love alive, it keeps attraction alive. And without attraction, you're not her partner anymore. You're just her roommate. One of the hardest truths to accept is that disrespect rarely starts with them. It starts with you. Not because you deserve it, but because somewhere along the way, you taught them it was acceptable. Maybe you avoided confrontation because you didn't want to argue. Maybe you laughed off comments that cut deep because you didn't want to seem too sensitive. Maybe you gave second, third, and fourth chances because you were terrified of losing them. But each time you swallowed that discomfort, you sent a silent message. My boundaries don't matter as much as keeping you here. And once that message is absorbed, they no longer see you as a man who must be respected. They see you as a man who can be managed. Here's the psychological truth that most men ignore. Respect isn't lost in explosions, it's lost in silence. It's not the big fights that kill relationships. It's the moments where you should have spoken, but didn't. When you should have walked away but stayed. When you should have enforced a boundary but chose to hope instead. Hope is not a strategy. Hope is not strength. Hope, without action, is the slowest poison you can swallow. And this is where most men trap themselves. They think if they give more, if they show more loyalty, if they prove how much they care, she'll wake up one day and realize his value again. But that's not how psychology works. Respect doesn't grow from sacrifice. It grows from certainty. It grows from a man who knows his worth so deeply that he'd rather lose her than lose himself. That's the paradox. The moment you stop fearing loss is the moment you gain respect. Think of it like this. If you're always available, always saying yes, always bending to avoid conflict, what's left for her to admire? What's left for her to chase? What's left for her to respect? She might appreciate the comfort, but she won't be inspired by it. Respect is born from strength. Strength to say no. Strength to walk away. Strength to demand better not with anger, but with calm, unwavering certainty. A relationship without respect will suffocate your spirit. And the longer you stay silent, the deeper the disrespect grows, until one day you wake up realizing you're no longer loved. You're just tolerated. There's a brutal truth you need to understand. When respect leaves, love doesn't leave right away. It lingers just long enough to confuse you. She might still say the words, "I love you." She might still be physically present. She might still play the role of partner. But it feels different, doesn't it? The warmth is colder, the affection is mechanical, and the intimacy feels like a performance rather than a connection. This is where most men get trapped, clinging to the idea of love while ignoring the absence of respect. And love without respect isn't love. It's dependency. You'll start to notice it in small ways. She no longer values your time. She interrupts. She cancels plans. She assumes you'll always adjust. She no longer values your emotions. Your pain is minimized. Your feelings are mocked. Your needs are secondary. And she no longer values your presence. She used to light up when you entered the room. Now she barely notices. That is the silent cruelty of disrespect. It doesn't scream, it erases. And slowly, you begin to erase yourself to survive it. This is why so many men lose themselves in relationships. They start as whole individuals, confident and grounded, but over time, they give away pieces of themselves just to keep her close. They stop pursuing their goals. They abandon their standards. They shrink to fit into a version of themselves they think will be enough. But in reality, every compromise of self only fuels her loss of respect. Because no woman can admire a man who abandons himself to keep her. Respect isn't about dominance. It's not about control. It's about balance. It's about showing up with enough strength and self-worth that she feels safe admiring you. And if that balance dies, attraction dies with it. That's why some men experience the most painful betrayal, not because she stopped loving, but because she stopped respecting. And once respect is gone, desire looks elsewhere. You need to hear this. It is better to be alone with dignity than together without respect. Because the pain of loneliness heals, but the pain of disrespect leaves scars on your identity. And no woman, no matter how beautiful or desirable, is worth you losing yourself. Every man eventually reaches a breaking point. That moment when you look at yourself in the mirror and you don't recognize who's staring back. You used to have fire. You used to have certainty. You used to stand tall in your values. But now, after bending, compromising, and shrinking, you see a version of yourself that feels foreign. That's the cost of tolerating disrespect. It doesn't just damage the relationship, it damages you. And here's the cruel irony. The more you tolerate, the less she respects you. And the less she respects you, the more you tolerate. Until you're locked in a cycle of slow self-destruction. You keep hoping she'll wake up one morning and see your worth again, but she won't. Because why would she? If she can get away with giving you less while still receiving everything, where's the incentive to change? Respect doesn't return because you endure. It returns when you enforce. That's the piece no one teaches men. Boundaries aren't about pushing her away. They're about protecting who you are. They're about reminding her and yourself that your dignity isn't negotiable. And yes, boundaries come with risk. You might lose her. You might trigger conflict. You might shatter the illusion of harmony you've been clinging to. But here's the truth. If setting boundaries drives her away, she was never yours to begin with. You were just a convenience she leaned on until something more exciting appeared. And I want you to sit with this for a second. How many years of your life are you willing to trade in exchange for temporary closeness? How much of your masculinity, your ambition, your confidence, are you willing to bury just to keep someone beside you? That's not love. That's fear, disguised as loyalty. You are not meant to be tolerated. You are meant to be respected, admired, and valued. And the moment you start demanding that, not with anger, but with calm strength, you shift everything. Maybe she rises to meet you again, maybe she doesn't. But either way, you win. Because the man who refuses to be disrespected never loses himself, even if he loses the relationship. The most dangerous moment in any relationship isn't when the arguments get loud. It's when the silence gets heavy, when the words spoken no longer carry weight, when your presence no longer inspires effort. That's when respect is gone, and you can feel it in your bones. And men who ignore that feeling often lose years of their lives waiting for something that isn't coming back. But here's the truth you need to hear. The moment they stop respecting you, you face a choice. Stay silent, shrink smaller, and accept a life where you're tolerated. Or rise, enforce your worth, and risk standing alone until you find someone who sees you as you truly are. Both paths are painful, but only one keeps your soul intact. Respect is oxygen for love. Without it, passion suffocates, connection fades, and trust crumbles. You cannot build intimacy on a foundation of contempt. You cannot build loyalty on a foundation of dismissal. And you cannot build happiness in a space where your dignity is treated like it's optional. You are not optional. You are not replaceable. You are not disposable. And the moment you start believing that for yourself, others will have no choice but to believe it too. I need you to remember this. Respect doesn't return with begging. It doesn't return with sacrifice. It doesn't return by proving yourself harder. Respect returns when you embody it. When you live in such a way that your boundaries are unshakable, your values are undeniable, and your presence demands recognition. Not through fear, not through dominance, but through unwavering self-worth. So ask yourself right now, are you being respected or are you just being kept? And if the answer terrifies you, good. It means you're finally waking up. Because the most dangerous lie men tell themselves is, it will get better if I just hold on. No, it only gets better when you refuse to accept less than what you deserve. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt that moment when respect started slipping away? What did you do about it? Share your story in the comments, because your truth might be the wake-up call another man needs. And if this message hit you, make sure you like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with a brother who needs to hear it before it's too late.